Hi, this is Dr. Nick. I'm the incrementalist here with incremental insights for better business, better health.
And this is Fred Goldstein with Accountable Health, here helping employers, payers, and others with their population health improvement programs.
So, Fred, you're off on a conference circuit trip, and you've got a new addition to your travel bag. Tell us about it.
I do. I've been getting a little pressure about some of my travel supplies. You got to bring the mask. Some people travel with some rapid tests, etc. Obviously, your hand cleaning stuff, all very important. But we all know now this whole issue of how good is the air where I am. So I literally have just gotten this. They rang the doorbell, I believe, right before our show here today. And this is a CO2 meter that measures how much CO2 is in the air, which gives you a sense of whether or not the air is being changed in that room, because obviously as we breathe in oxygen, we breathe out CO2, and the levels go up if you don't have air circulation in there. So this is my new travel kit.
So I'm making light of it just because I'm imagining Fred pacing around the conference facilities, pointing this at various places and potentially upsetting people. And I don't mean to make light, because it is actually a very serious point. This is a great proxy for air circulation. And if the CO2 level rises, we've actually seen this with a number of our clients. They're doing this. It's a great way of getting some insight into the level of air circulation. And if you're circulating and keeping that CO2 level down with lots of people in, you're doing a good job. So if you're at a conference and you see this guy walking around with two masks and an orange thing, and he points it at you, then you know it's Fred. Just say, "Hi, Fred."
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting because actually this is more of a research experiment than anything else. I want to see what this looks like, how it
Yep.
works, because as you talked about, we do have clients and others who are measuring the CO2 content. You're seeing a lot of corporations begin to bring that in as they bring people back to work. It's an important tool that could be used, and I've seen many of them that now sit up on the walls and show those measurements. The other thing we wanted to discuss this week, Nick, is we keep hearing more and more about boosters, and we're now beginning to see approvals, et cetera. So what's going on in that space?
Well, so I think I was about to say clear, but nothing ever seems to be clear in this pandemic. As clear as we can be at this point, it is looking very much like we are advocating or advising for boosters, but in a particular subset. And let's clarify, we have 3 approved vaccines in this country: Pfizer, Moderna, and the Johnson and Johnson or Janssen vaccine, which is the single dose. The approved protocol was 2 doses of the first 2 for Moderna and Pfizer, and a single dose for the Johnson and Johnson. The first 2 messenger RNA viruses with 2 doses, you were considered fully vaccinated. The vaccine schedule is now likely to change for over 65s. And for those that are vulnerable is categorized as people living with folks, working in specific circumstances. It can encompass a lot of things. It's designed to do so because you need to make that decision in conjunction with your medical provider. Obviously, if you're over 65, that qualifies. And the reason for that is that our immune system doesn't respond as well as we get older. It's not as robust in its response. And we want to see this improved or increased levels. And based on the data and the research that's been carried out, certainly for those 2, I think we'll see it. Johnson & Johnson, we're still waiting on the data, but they're probably going to be looking at a similar protocol or an additional dose, and booster dose, second dose as part of the protocol. The one thing to point out here is that there's some interesting research currently ongoing. I don't think the data is out that says, do you mix and match with different vaccines? I know, the advice has been clear. Don't do that as part of the protocol. That wasn't what we tested, but we are testing it now. And it looks like that might be even better from a response, an immune response, giving you a more robust response. So we might see some of that happening, but none of it's settled as yet.
Mm-hmm. So could you quickly comment on one thing, Nick? I know a lot of the people are going to say, well, does this mean the vaccines don't work? And maybe talk about the issue between severe illness, et cetera, and infection.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I apologize for laughing. It is a very serious point, and I understand that because we've all been tuned. It's a bit like FedEx. tuned us to be expecting absolutely minute by minute updates of when our package is going to arrive, where it's going to arrive, the fact somebody's at the door. All of that has tuned us to that sort of behavior. Same is true with vaccines. Prior to COVID-19, people took the flu vaccine, and that had variable effectiveness, vaccine effectiveness, anywhere from 40 to 60, sometimes higher. But it wasn't fully protective. So I've certainly had the flu vaccine and suffered a dose of flu in the past, but I didn't consider that the vaccine had failed because it prevented me from getting serious disease and certainly prevented me from being admitted to hospital. And that's what the vaccines are still doing very effectively. They prevent severe disease at a very high rate, and an even higher rate, they prevent admission to hospital. And that is with the 2 doses, and certainly, and the 1 dose for the Johnson and Johnson, in the case of the existing protocol with people that have robust responses. For those that don't or are in special categories, we're looking at the data and trying to interpret it as best we can. Reason that's difficult is the immune system is highly complex, and just measuring levels of antibodies doesn't answer the question as to whether you're immune. But real life data is telling us you probably need it in these instances, but it's not through failure. It's let's just improve the response.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for answering that really important issue. And if you're at the conference or anywhere and you see me with this thing and I go running out of the room, don't worry, it's not a radioactive measurement tool, but the CO2 levels might be a bit high in there and you might want to join me.
You need a Geiger counter on your phone clicking away whilst we're doing it.
So thank you all so much for joining us. This is Fred Goldstein with Accountable Health. If you'd like more information, please go to accountablehealthllc.com.
And this is Dr. Nick. I'm the incrementalist here with Incremental Insights for better business, better health.